Many years ago, there was a forest known as Almeida. The forest was quite huge and had a unique blend of terrains in it. It would take 10 days of riding on horseback in a straight line to get to the periphery, but due to the terrain, it would take much longer. It was blessed with a wide range of resources including ores, rare herbs, spices as well as fruits of the highest quality. These resources were randomly spawned, however there were areas that had more of one type of resource. The eastern meadows brimmed with herbs, the west with grassy woodlands where animals roamed free, the north held mountains rich with ores, but the south was a paradise, a place of calm and beauty, known as God's area, because wild animals lost their ferocious nature here and were docile. It was mystical, the strong scents from the different fruits had a calming effect on the mind. If one was depressed, all they had to do was walk through an orchard and they'd be happy and relaxed. This effect was not limited to humans and also applied to animals, so it was a very popular place among the villages and the animal kingdom. In a cave of the tallest peak, a ferocious tiger had decided to make a home out of it. It had lived in the southern region for a long time. Perhaps, due to how long it had lived here or the fruits it had eaten, its eyes were brimming with intelligence and it boasted bright white fur that glistened in the sun. It was like a guardian of the orchards and was always docile except for when it went hunting in the western regions. When it was bored, it would lazily watch the villagers and animals that came to play and pick fruits. One day, a group of children from Peach Village, one of the villages in the southern region, came to pick fruits for the Lunar Festival, a festival that was held every Lunar New Year. After picking enough fruits and making several trips to the village, they decided to rest and play in the trees. They played and lost track of time and had to hurriedly return to the village to prepare for the festival. Because they were in a rush, they forgot the pot they had brought with them. Later that evening, the tiger came across the pot and saw a white liquid that smelled nice. It tasted it and its pupils dilated. It had never tasted something this good before. It was like breast milk it drank as a cub but way better. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. This was because the milk was specially prepared by the villagers to be more creamy and flavorful. The tiger went for another lick and another until soon, the pot was empty to the tiger's disappointment. It became so obsessed with milk, it began stealing the pots of the children who were playing in the trees. But as the milk was always too small, it could never have enough. Soon the children stopped bringing milk whenever they came to play. So the tiger started stealing from the villages around the southern region until it became notorious and the villagers started hiding their milks and it became harder and harder for it to find any. Just when it began feeling despair, a girl known as Little Empress came to God's area with some milk. It went over and was anxiously looking at the pot. The girl smiled, and offered half of her milk to the now greedy tiger. It happily drank unaware of its surroundings and the girl happily played with its fur. This went on for 3 days until she suddenly stopped coming. The tiger began missing Little Empress and the milk she would bring. After a week, she came over with a basket. In it was a pot of milk, some bowls, and a bottle of ink and paint brushes. The tiger rubbed its head against Little Empress's head as she giggled and poured milk into a bowl for him. After she was done, it greedily drank the milk while she painted on a short tree in the company of the tiger. This went on for some time and the two became close friends and everyone knew about Little Empress and the tiger. After she finished painting, she would have some ink left and would paint on the tiger. It didn't mind, as it knew a hot spring somewhere and would usually plunge in it to wash off the ink. This continued for a while until it noticed that the areas where Little Empress painted were slightly darker. It started refusing whenever she tried painting on him. However, Little Empress's baby face and the milk she brought were too tempting for it to refuse, especially the milk. This was because Little Empress had specially mixed spices and dried fruits that were to its liking in the milk. So it would eventually let her paint on him. She would usually paint the same places she painted on last time and would lavish the tiger in praises of its new beauty. One day she brought a bigger pot of milk for the tiger. It rubbed its head against hers as it purred like a cat in delight. As it drank the milk, she painted on him. By now, little Empress had become skilled at painting, so the strokes she made were quite beautiful. She painted its back and legs. After it was done drinking, she painted its neck. By now the tiger was very sleepy as it had drank too much milk. So it fell in a deep sleep, while little Empress painted its head and tail with a serious expression on her baby face. After she was done, she pointed her lips as she inspected her work and made a few modifications here and there. Since the tiger was still asleep, she left. The tiger woke up the next day, and went to the river to look at its reflection. It was so impressed with what it saw that it decided to keep the ink for a few more days as it happily strolled around the orchards to showcase its beauty. Unbeknownst to the tiger, little Empress had used a very strong ink that her father had made, and she had used a generous amount while she painted his fur, and due to all the time it spent showcasing its beauty, the paint was no longer surface deep and had deeply stained it up to the root of its hair. When it decided to wash the ink off, it wouldn't wash off. Instead it made its black fur glisten brightly like it was freshly painted. Little Empress knew what she had done. This was obvious from the mischievous smile she had on her face when visited the tiger. It looked at her with a face that said, "You tricked me." As if reading his mind, she quickly said, "No, I didn't. Don't you see? Now you'll be beautiful forever." And so, the tiger became the father of striped tigers, its legacy painted into its fur forever.